Internet! Welcome to 2.5 Brains. This is not our weekly Survivor recap. This is our Survivor off-season show. We're going to talk about a couple interesting topics this episode. And this is actually going to be our show where something I've been wanting to do for a while, something I've really been looking forward to doing, is going through. Now we have 42 seasons of content. Looking at, and we thought 44 was going to be a returning player season. It may or may not be now, which is kind of annoying. Because I really love the returning player seasons. I love seeing players who already know what they're doing, go out and do their thing, or at least somewhat know what they're doing. Or even if they're a disaster, we at least know them, so we don't have to spend time building a ton of character. We can kind of just spend a lot more time with the game and evolving the characters that we already know. So what I wanted to do, though, is I think it'd be really, really fun to kind of cast a Survivor season. We call it 43, 44, whatever. Second chances 2, right? So in essence, it's the second chances for the players who did not make the original second chances season. And basically what I'm going to do is go through and basically pick one player from each season who's only played once, has not been back to play again, and did not win their season. That's the only category. They played once, they didn't win, and they're not from the same season as anybody else. So that's what I went through. And we have a little bit of help here coming through as we go through. Jessica will be here as well, and and we'll see. But I'm looking forward to. And she doesn't have as much knowledge as she hasn't seen all the seasons, so she'll kind of just be keeping us going as we go through and keeping us on track so we don't go too long. But also I want to talk about, obviously, The Amazing Race and Survivor are going to be on the same night this season. So we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do. I think the plan right now is to get The Amazing Race show out right away and then the Survivor show out on Thursday. I think that's what we're going to try to do. And that way, anybody, any guests we can have or whatever, we'll have to worry about doing it immediately following. We can do it the next day. And then we can get our Amazing Race show out. It's quicker usually and it doesn't take as long. So we can watch both together, get The Amazing Race out, watch Survivor, write down our thoughts, watch Amazing Race immediately after, get that out right away, and then do the Survivor show the next day, I think is what the plan is for now. But we'll see. We'll see what we can do. I'm excited for this, though. Obviously, we'll have our Amazing Race cast preview coming up. They just released the cast within the last couple of days, so I'm really excited to talk about that. Some interesting characters on that season. And then also the Survivor cast preview should be coming out any day as well. So looking forward to that also. So we'll be having our previews of the seasons coming up here. We'll be having our season 43 preview. We'll be having our Amazing Race 34 preview. And we'll be going from there. So look forward to that. And definitely keep an eye out for that. Subscribe so you don't miss anything. You can like our Facebook page, Paper Road Productions on Facebook. You can email the show directly, paperroadproductions@gmail.com. And share the post, tell your friends as the new seasons come out. It's something anybody who knows the old school Survivor fan, a new school Survivor fan, or overall Survivor fan, this will be a nice show for them to kind of walk down memory lane a little bit and have a little fun with it. So I look forward to that. Let's go ahead and dive in here. I'll bring in Jessica here in a moment, and we'll get started. Jessica, welcome.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Good. It's been an off season, so we haven't had much Survivor, but get geared up here. We've been doing a lot of fun stuff in the off season, but get geared up here because Amazing Race, Survivor. Jessica will probably be on a few of the Survivor shows. Can focus mostly on the Amazing Race because she likes that show a lot better, and I'm not gonna torture her. So we can watch the Amazing Race together, and we already kind of looked at the cast a little bit, so we'll be talking about that coming up here soon. That won't take too long. It'll be a quick show in the next little bit, and then we'll do some Survivor stuff at some point here as well. We're try to focus on the Amazing Race first, and then Survivor the day after or whatever as we go through there. So trying to see what we're gonna do as far as that show, but we got a little bit of time to figure that out. But it is coming up quickly in the next couple of weeks. The shows are gonna begin, so we'll have to get our previews out soon. But what we're going to do here, I'm going to dive in. I'm going to talk about, I already laid down what the criteria are going to be for talking about each cast member. And Jessica's going to chime in with all the seasons that she's seen and anything else that she wants to comment on. Of course, she's more than welcome to do so as well as we get started here. But I want to go ahead and start off here and talk about each season that had at least a new player. Right, so if it had half returning players, half new players, that counts. If it had all new players, that counts. If it had mix, that counts. The only ones that don't count that we're not going to do anything with are the ones we had all returning players. So there's a few seasons in there. I'll mention those as they go up. But I'm going to go through here, and this should be fun. I'll talk about some of the players from the past and some of the players from the newer seasons as well. So, are you ready, Jessica?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, here we go. Let's go ahead and dive in here. I'm going to start with season number 1. And this season was the season that, millions of people watched. It was one of the biggest rated shows in the history of television. It had so many eyeballs on it. It was, the show that really made it, made Survivor what it is, obviously. And the interesting thing about this show is it's really hard to kind of say who, we'd want to come back from this show, because we had the final 4 already all came back. Richard came back again. Obviously once to meet this criteria. Rudy, passed away, but he came back once. And also Suhawk came back on All Stars as well, and then quit with the whole Me Too movement stuff with Richard Hatch. And then Kelly came back on Second Chance. She was on the original Second Chance of the season, voted in by the fans, and so she played again as well. So the final 4 all came back, and then Jervis came back as well on Jervis Tetch, Never Nervous Jervis. He came back on Blood vs. Water. So 5 players from the original season have been back. And so it's kind of like, all right, who do you want to see back? There's a couple options. You got Dr. Sean. You got Greg Buis, who's, a lot of people really love. Greg Buis got a nice online following. And, of course, Colleen Haskell, who's been in a couple movies, and, nobody's really heard from her in a while. And then, but the one I think I'm going to actually go with here is someone who's one of the most underrated players in Survivor history. Because that first season, nobody really knew what they're doing. They had the outfit strategy. They just kind of had people, I'm going to vote somebody out based on the first name. I'm going to vote somebody out based on who works hard. Vote somebody out based on this. The one player who actually had a head for the game, who had kind of knew what was going on and was playing the game, was Gretchen Cordy. So that's who I would bring back in the Second Chances. Gretchen was the person basically voted out at the merge, because the alliance, the Tagi alliance, they all voted for her because she's the only threat on the other side. She's the one who knows this is a game and there's a strategy to it. Everybody else is just doing their own thing, whatever. So they targeted her because they knew if we get rid of her, we can run the game, because they're not aligned. They're not going to vote the other, the whatever. So, and if she's playing on a season with other people who actually have a strategy, she had a strategy. She just didn't have an alliance because the alliances weren't invented yet, right? But she had a strategy. So if she's now all these years later, if she's playing with other players who know that this is a strategy game, I'd really be really interested to see what she would do, now. So I wanted to mention that. I wanted to bring that up, and that is what I wanted to go with. So I'm going to go with Gretchen Cordy for getting a second chance to play. Next, season 2, Australia. That premiere, actually that finale was one of the highest rated television shows of all time. And that season is, again, that was one of the most legendary seasons of all time. Beloved season. The name Colby spiked a lot. He would name the kids Colby after Colby Donaldson. That was one of the most iconic shows in the history of television. And big reason, almost all of that cast has been back. Like about half the cast at this point has been back to play again. You had Tina play again twice. You had Colby play again twice. You had Jerry. You had Amber. You had, there's a lot of other people. A lot of the cast has been back to play a second time. So, Varner played again. Alicia played again. So it very, very popular season. A lot of players have played again, and obviously, it's a legendary season. This one's hard though for me because so many have been back, and really everybody who's you want to see again has been back. Really, there hasn't really been anybody who's like, oh, I really, really want them to play again from season 2, because they pretty much all have. Anybody who's really was, that season was so popular. Anybody who was beloved by the fans has been back. Obviously in this season, I love Roger Bingham. He's great. He's obviously got to be really old at this point. And so part of this is gonna be some people, people we could see back in theory, and also it's kind of a dream. It would be a dream to have them back. So I'm gonna say that, very unlikely would ever happen, I would love to see Elizabeth Fallarsy come back. aka Elizabeth Hasselbeck, come back. I think that'd be really crazy to see, especially now with she's had her journalism career and some controversy around her political views and all that stuff. So I think it'd be really fun to see her back though. I mean, she finished fourth in that season. It was a 42-day season instead of a 39-day season, and she made it almost the full 39 days based on that. So she finished I think fourth in the season. So it would have been really cool to see her. Also, Keith Famey obviously was the third place finisher, and had Colby made the strategic decision rather than the emotional decision or the moral decision, he beats Keith easily and wins the game. And Keith is the runner up and Colby's the winner. But Colby made the decision to vote with it, vote morally and keep the person who deserved it rather than the person who he could beat, and that's why Colby lost. But I think it'd be it'd be really fun to, obviously see Elizabeth Hasselbeck back after all this time, 20 years later. I think it'd be really crazy to see her back.
Yeah. So
that's number 2. Season 3. So this is the season of Ethan, obviously, and there's gonna be some spoilers in this season because obviously I'm talking about who didn't win the season. I'm not gonna try to go too much into it, all that stuff. But that this is again a really fun season, and there's been some players who we haven't really heard from. It was another great season. Africa is maybe of all the seasons the one that had the best, I don't know, I guess wildlife. You want to put on a season that's not risky at all to watch, and it has lots of cool animals for your kids. This would be the show that I put on. A lot of this cast has been back as well. Not a lot, but all the big players. Ethan's been back, obviously twice. Lex played again. Big Tom played again. So those are the 3 big ones, the three big stars of that season. But one person who should have been back and was the only real snub that I didn't like. There's a couple that I would have liked to see who were in the original Second Chances voting and didn't get in. The left out 11. The only really the one that stands out from that group that didn't make it in, who definitely should have. There may be a couple other ones that maybe you can make arguments for, but one who definitely should have been back and didn't make it back which is really surprising, and somehow didn't get the votes to get back on that season, was T-Bird Cooper. Teresa Cooper, flight attendant from Atlanta. I mean, no reason she shouldn't have got back, and she should be back already. I mean, she's great. She's still very connected to the Survivor community. She knows all the old school players, and she would have been great. She still knows the game. She's very, very nice, and she always was a nice older lady, but now she's even older. But she's a really nice lady, and it would be nice to have her back on the show. Just for somebody to have a major rooting interest. An old school player. It was back when it was the Boomers versus the Gen X, and those Gen Xers are so lazy, they don't work hard. And I was like, those now those millennials, they don't work hard. I can't wait for the season where those Gen Zers, they don't work hard. It's just kind of every season has that. But that was a divide in her season was the older players versus the younger players, and she was in the older group then. But she's still great, and I would love to see T-Bird come back. Obviously, so she's my pick for the 3rd season to come back in a Second Chances type of season.
TV is my nice people.
Oh, I know. She's really a sweet lady. And she would have been great. I still can't believe she didn't get voted back in the first time because she was in the running, and I don't know why. I don't know how she didn't make it in.
You like the villains too.
I do too. But yeah, T-Bird's just great though. I mean, she's a legend, for sure. Season 4, that is Survivor Marquesas. So this one's really interesting. This was the first season, and this one I have a number of people I'd love to see come back. They really haven't brought back that many people from this season. I don't know why. Boston Rob was on this. This was his original season. He had a showmance with a girl named Sarah. And then they had Hunter Ellis was like the Colby. He was the survival guy. He was the military guy. He was Rudy / Colby. The good old boy, and he was leading his tribe. And Boston Rob, this whatever you want to call him, jerk from New England came in wearing his Patriots hat, and he turned the tribe on the good guy.
Nobody likes that guy.
He turned the tribe on the good guy, the hero, and he voted him out right before the merge. And so Hunter really got Boston Rob really, for lack of a better term, screwed Hunter. He was the first player to really, not just march along with the hero. He was the first one to kind of be a bad guy and stab the hero in the back and take over the show. And that was Rob's, that season. And that was, it kind of went off the rails because Rob went out shortly after. And then it was kind of like, well, who's going to win? It was the road 2-4, right? And it was the pecking order, right? That was the first season. That was the first season where there was a pecking order. And like, hey, these people are going, and it's gonna be these people, then these people, then these people. And the pecking order was laid out. And the first time ever that the people who were on the bottom said, no, we're not gonna be on the bottom. We're gonna flip it. And they flipped it on the road 2-4, and they took over. And the rest is history. They started with getting rid of John Carroll, and then they just picked them off in reverse. The people who were in control got picked off one by one, in that way. Gabriel Cade was a fun character, but again, he was one of those people who didn't want to play the game. He was just there to build a society type of thing. Back when they still tried to do that stuff. And the best player in that season, who didn't win, it was Kathy Vavrick O'Brien. Kathy has been back again, so it can't be her. By my criteria. I do like Nalia. She's a lot older now. She's a family now, everything like that. She was the runner-up that season. She was great. Pascal English was great. He was the first player to get rocked out on a rock draw. So I loved him as well. And John Carroll, he was the leader. He was the leader of that other alliance. And for the diversity, if you want to talk about diversity, obviously we've had 3 women so far come back. John Carroll would be, for LGBT, he would be a good person to have come back. But I can't. I mean, so there's those. All those people would be great. Everybody's mentioned would be great to have back. But I really think Sean Rector would be the person to have back. Sean is just he was just a monster. He was a beast. He just was so cutting confessionals. And again, for diversity's sake, he would be a great one to have back as well. Just as a fun character, and regardless of how well he knew the game or whatnot, he was part of that flip. Part of the flip of the from the bottom to the top, and that was really awesome. So, and he definitely made the season a lot better. So I said I love Nalia, love John, love Pascal, but I think Sean Rector would be the one I would bring back if I had to pick just one. It would be Sean, so that's the first person of color to I would bring back, and he's definitely a star for sure. Moving on to season 5. Season 5 was Thailand. And this was a really bad season. They brought Xian back, but this season was not really well received. It was not very popular. The winner was a villain for sure, not somebody that the fans really loved. They didn't really like. I guess his wife wasn't really popular when they had the family visit. The production really didn't like dealing with her.
That must have been your favorite person then.
Oh no! I mean, he was the only option at that point. When he got down to the final 4 or 5, he was really the only option. So I was glad he won because, who else are you gonna pick?
Of course you were.
But his name is Hi Dick. So you see him on the street, you say Hi Dick, and he's also the one who shot a dog with a bow and arrow. So he's not the very popular guy. So he's the winner. So you can't bring him back. Clay Jordan would have been a nice one. He unfortunately passed away recently. He was the runner-up. And so I'm really not really sure who I would have brought back. Big Ted was cool. I really like Helen. I think she would have been one to bring back. But there's not a ton of people who I don't even remember a ton. And then by the way, I'm doing all this from memory. I don't have any of these people looked up or I haven't done any research on this stuff. So I'm gonna do it all from the top of my head, and that's kind of a problem with this season because this season I did my rankings of seasons, around 31. I think this one was number 30 or 31. It was one of my least favorite seasons of all time. I think it was actually my least favorite season. And it was just nobody. It was really fun. It was there was nobody that likable. And the ones who were likable went out really early. So. I think this is the season they vote out a pastor or whatever, but it wasn't a great season, and there's nobody who really jumps out at me. So I would say bring back Helen or Big Ted, and it can go from there. But so this is one of the few seasons that very, very few attorneys. It didn't go over very well, for obvious reasons, I guess. For season 6, now we're up to the Survivor Amazon. And this one, obviously the winner, Jenna, she came back once and then quit. We also had Rob Cesternino. He was on the show. He came back once. And that's really been it. I mean, obviously we had Butch Lockley, Matthew Von Ertfelda, as well were the 2 other of the final 4. They haven't been back at all. So they're really, again, this was another season. There hasn't been as many returnees as you might have thought, especially with it being an older season and a very good season. One of the more popular seasons. There hasn't been that many returnees. But in this case, obviously, if you can get her, you want to get her. Heidi Hamels, the wife of Cole Hamels, legendary baseball pitcher. So I don't think she'd come back. I think she's got better things to do. But again, if you can get her to come back, get her to come back. If not, maybe Diane, or sorry, not Diane, Dina. Maybe Dina to come back. Or again, one of the other guys. A lot of those guys early on were kind of train wrecks. So I don't know, Dan Liu. But I'd say probably either Dina, or I would say obviously Heidi Hamels would be the ideal, just because again, married to a celebrity. And she was pretty popular then on the show. So I guess if you can't have you can't have Rob come back, he's already been back. So I guess Heidi would have been the one I would pick for the season. Season 7. Season 7 is a little bit different because they have had a couple of people come back. They had obviously Sandra, come back 4 times now. They've had, she's a legend. They've had Johnny Fairplay come back. Technically, even though he didn't really play the second time. And then they had the Outcast twist. So people who were voted out came back. And that was interesting. You had Austin, all the Austin stuff, with Austin quitting and so all that stuff. So there was a lot there. So I like Burton obviously because he came back, and he was a big character. But he already got voted out, so it's kind of like I kind of hate doing that. Bringing him back, even though he was voted out once, and then he came back and got voted out again. So that one's kind of up in the air. Rupert obviously is played three times since then as well, so he's a big character. Obviously he was on Amazing Race as well. So Rupert's he's been back. So the one that you can't really say. So I don't really know. I mean, Krista is friends with Sandra. She's kind of still been around, just supporting Sandra. Tawana Bradley, T. Bradley. She's again kind of gets lost in the shuffle there a little bit. Obviously Lil. But Lil got voted out and then came back and then went to the end and lost. So I don't know. Dara Johnson, she got super outwitted by by Sandra and Johnny Fairplay. So this one's a tough one again because a lot of the big characters have been back. The Ruperts and them. I'd say bring T back. I guess Tawana Bradley. And again, she's not just for the diversity sake of it too, but that does help. And they are trying to have more diversity, in the show. And she was good in challenges. And I think if she learned it, if the strategy, if she could keep up with the strategy, I think she'd be an interesting one to bring back. I would love, if they never cast another new season ever again, they just took old, players who played before and threw all their names in a hat and then picked them out and put them on a season with new twists and different combinations of people. You said you can run these simulators 20 times and you have probably 20 winners a lot of these times, right? I mean, so it's interesting to see kind of how players from old seasons adapt with different twists, with new stuff, and obviously, so I think that'd be fun to do that. I think those were of all the players that were left, and obviously Andrew Savage was a huge player, but he came back once as well, and he was on the original Second Chance season. Skinny Ryan, which I guess is not skinny anymore, which is kind of interesting. So I don't know if you still call him Skinny Ryan, even though he's not skinny anymore. That'd be interesting to have him back as well. But I guess we'll go with T just because she was well known. She's not well known really in the community, but she was on the season for a while and did a pretty good job. Season 8 was All Stars, so all returning players. So we're gonna skip that season. We'll go to season 9, Vanuatu. Vanuatu was a really fun season. Chris Daughtry played great, won the season. He was not that Chris Daughtry, the other Chris Daughtry. And that one was men versus women. The second time they did men versus women, second of 3 times. And that one, the men were a complete disaster. Like the first time, they were a complete disaster. The only difference between the first, of season 6 and season 9 was that season 9, the only man who was left in the game was a genius. And he didn't look like a genius. He was kind of a dumb-looking redneck, but he played all the women against each other. He told this one that she was on this one. They got them fighting with each other. Then they got those ones fighting with each other, and they all ended up fighting with each other and shooting at each other. He was just ducking underneath, let them all kill each other, and he was the only one left standing. So the men again were a disaster, but in this case, the one left at the end was the only guy who knew what he was doing, and he ran circles around the rest of them. Chad was really cool. He was the first handicapped person to be on the show. I guess Christy Smith from Amazon, she was deaf, but Chad only had one leg. So that was really that was really cool how well he did. He was so good in challenges having only one leg. And then Lee Sargent, was a loudmouth drill. He was literally a drill sergeant. So he or Lee Master, I don't know what his name was, but he was a drill sergeant, Sergeant Lee. And he was he told people what to do. If you could imagine, he bossed people around on his season. If you can imagine that. But the only ones who were back, there were, Amy came back, and I know Amy came back, and Eliza came back and then played The Amazing Race as well. So they've been back. Julie Berry would be a fun one to bring back, but there's a little bit of a, and they kind of relaxed that rule of hey, if you have been behind the camera, you can't really play again because you see how the inner workings are. She had a very unique experience. She dated Jeff Probst for a long time. So her coming back would be kind of weird. So I don't know, but I think Leanne would be a person to bring back. Again, she was kind of the leader of that alliance. Also, Twyla Tanner, who was the runner-up of that season, she just told people how she felt and didn't care. So she'd be one just as character-wise to bring back. Like I said, or Leanne, because Leanne actually played a pretty good game. But again, was targeted by Chris because she was really the only threat to him once we got down to the final 4, final 5. In that range, she was really the only threat left to him, and so he took her out. So I would say, Twyla would be fun to bring back, or Leanne for that season. And again, a lot of men have come back. Well, not as many women have come back because they just didn't cast great women back then. But the one or two that could be left over that have men back, I think would be fun to see. Season 10. This one's the easiest one. This one's the one I've had circled, starred, highlighted. I can't believe he hasn't been back yet. This one was obviously Tom Westman ran that season. This was one of the best seasons ever though because it had the only tribe to lose out. The first tribe to ever lose out, and it was like a 10-person tribe. The first 2 people were kicked off immediately. They didn't even get on the tribe. They just voted 2 people out before the game even started. They did all the hard work to get on the show and were voted out immediately. So it was 9-on-9 in the tribe, and the one tribe literally lost the entire way. So Stephanie and Bobby John were the 2 left. Stephanie beat Bobby John in the fire making, so she gets to go to the merge. Bobby John's out. Brought both of them back for the next season. So both of them have played again. Those are the 2 biggest characters because they were, the tribe of 2, and the tribe of 1. And then Tom ran this season from the rest of the way. He was the leader of the tribe that won everything. And then, when they brought the only player left from the other tribe in, got rid of her systematically, and then got down to the end and really took care of business. He was really a star, and he cruised to win, beating Katie Gallagher. But the one player I'd love to see back was Tom and Katie's ally, who flipped on them in the Final 4 to try to win, because the only shot he had was flip on them in the Final 4, and didn't win. The person he picked to go into fire didn't make lost. So it was him against 2 others, and he made the decision it was an 11-hour challenge. They stood on a pole in the water for 11 hours. It was pitch black, it was 2 a.m. when the challenge was done, and it ended with Ian, who's my pick to come back. Ian saying, all right, here's what I'm going to do, Tom. We've been doing this for a while. We can keep doing this, but I'm going to jump off, give you immunity if you vote me out and give me my friendship back. And he did. And Tom agreed. He jumped down. Ian jumped down. Tom voted Ian out, took Katie to the end, won easily. And he said, Tom said, you had my friendship either way, but now you have my respect. And, went to the end, cruised and won. Tom's been back, and there hasn't been a ton of, obviously Bobby John and Ethan came back. But I'd love to see Ian come back, just again, because he made the decision at the final 10 to vote himself out to make nice with his friends in exchange for winning the game. So I'd love to see kind of, 15 years later, how he feels about that decision still, and kind of if he would come back playing a different game. Obviously, I'd love to see how that would go all that time later. So that would be fun to see. That'd be cool to see. So I'd love to see Ian come back for season 10. Season 11, Stephanie came back again after she played season 11. And then Danny recently on 40 came back. But that was really it. And Danny was the first person who was originally on that season to come back. Because, Stephanie was on 10 and 11. She came back for 20. Danny was the only player from Guatemala to come back. They had never had anybody from Guatemala come back, who was originally from Guatemala. And she came back, she won, and she played, in 40. So there's a lot of options here. There's some really crazy characters. This season was the season. I guess that's why they maybe didn't like this cast. I don't know. But they had Judd. They had the doorman Judd. I hope you all get bit by a crocodile. They had the first, I guess you can say, celebrity come back. NFL dream and quarterback Gary Hogaboon was on the season. He found the original Survivor idol. First person to ever find an idol on Survivor. And of course Jamie and the crazy guy, and so many people were, there's a lot of loonies on that season. So it's one of those seasons where again there's a lot of big characters, not as much gameplay. Definitely more of a hot mess season, which maybe that's why they didn't bring anybody back until recently. Brian Corden obviously is a fun character, big fan. Blake Towsley, the Golden Boy who got taken out by Platinum, which was and then again a lot of really fun characters on that season. The gameplay not so much. So I don't know. I would bring back either Brian Corden or maybe Rafe Judkins, because Rafe was the final 3, and he released Stephanie from her commitment to take him to the end. And then obviously, he got knocked out at 3. So, I would bring back one of those two, either Brian Corden, who was, pre-merger, or Rafe Judkins, who was the final 3. Going on to season 12. So season 12 is another one where the entire Final Four has been back. So again, Terry Dietz was on the original Second Chancers. Sari, one of the greatest players of all time. She came back 4 times. She's played 4 times and is the greatest player to never win. And it's not close. And then Danielle DiLorenzo's played twice. And Aris Bushkauskas has played twice. And Bailey's playing with his toy, so that's funny. But I think the player who I want to see play again, and again, I can't believe has been back yet. Another real weirdo, wacko guy. He was the guy who quit smoking to go out there and was just a complete lunatic. Love this character. I can't believe he wasn't even in the running for Second Chances. That alone is a travesty. You gotta bring back Shane Powers. Bailey agrees. You gotta bring back Shane Powers. Shane was a super entertaining, super funny, and definitely brought a lot to that season. So I definitely would love to see Shane Powers play again for sure. So that's my pick for season 12. Now season 13. This was the Race Wars, that one was kind of. Whatever. That it has had a lot of returning players though on that season. That season has had a lot of players come back. Obviously, you had Parvati, you had Penner, you had Candace, you had Ozzy, all come from that season. All though are 4-time players. And then, of course, you had Yul Kwan as well. Yul, the winner, and he's, of course, played again at Winners at War. And, so some real fun characters that season as well. So that one, it was really hard to decide who to bring back for that season. Again, Penner was fun. Billy Garcia was a blast. And he would. I kind of want to see Billy Garcia come back just because of his whole love at first sight, craziness. Probably the craziest reaction by Jeff Probst of all time was Billy Garcia's love at first sight thing. So that would be fun to see him come back again. They threw a challenge to get rid of him. So maybe Billy Garcia, or the guy that Candace had a showmance with, maybe bringing him back. His name escapes me at the moment. And that he casted the deciding vote for Yul, to win the game. So, Billy Garcia would be fun to see come back, and then they've had a lot of players come back, from the different that was divided into 4 groups: Asians, Hispanics, blacks, and whites, in that season. So that one was, and they've brought back 3 people from the white tribe. So, and then they brought back one Hispanic guy, and then they brought back obviously Yule once. But I also maybe I would maybe my actual pick would be Michelle Yee, just because she was the first person to be screwed over by a major twist. They did a fake merge or an unmerge, and she got voted out because of that. Really no fault of her own. So maybe I would say Michelle Yee should come back. But Billy Garcia also, just because he's funny. Moving on to season 14, another season that really low on my list. But this was an easy one as well for me. They've only brought back, I think, one person from this season. And again, it was another season where it was haves versus have-nots. It was one tribe was living in luxury, one tribe was living with nothing. And you can't imagine who won that season. The tribe who got everything dominated. Go figure. So that was a season. Again, they had brought back a ton of people from that season. Yao Man was the number one person from that season. They brought him back again, and he did decently well again. But again, he was the standout from that season. So he came back again. Earl was the other big character, but he won. So the only other, there's a couple of people who were good, who were fun. Alex, Edgardo, Mookie, were fun. But the guy who is the center of controversy because of he made a move that was going to help him outside the game and became a huge villain for it. He made a promise to somebody that was an outside the game type of promise, and then didn't uphold his end of the deal. And that was Dre, aka Dreams Heard. And he would be the one you got to bring back. Just again, diversity's sake, a black guy, and then just a guy who made one of the most controversial moves in the history of the show. So obviously, I'd love to see him come back, see how he would play this time. He once he made that move for himself, he had no chance of winning the game. So it would be really interesting to see what he's up to now and how he would play this time. Season 15, again, another season that had a lot of big characters. You had Courtney, who's played, again. You had Amanda, who played twice again since then. And obviously Todd, one of the greatest players of all time, who actually won the game. You also had PG, who's been back as well and played again. So, again, most of the big characters from that season have played again. Another very well-received season. The one I'd love to see play again, obviously, this is another one that the biggest character who has not been back, the professional poker player, Jean Robert. Jean Robert, he was the original misogynist, the original arrogant jerk. Maybe not the original, because there have been other ones before him, but he was a huge one. He was famous for saying, he had a crush on PG, and him and Courtney always butted heads, and he said he wanted to win $1 million, but if you get $1 million in some ass, that'd be even better. And he came out and he was kind of putting Todd down, and Todd was gay, and he kind of made Todd feel really bad about himself. And then Todd told him that the only reason that John Robert got voted out is because he was the biggest threat to win the game, which of course wasn't true because nobody liked him. But John Robert, he stroked John Robert's ego so well that it just shut him up, and he was the loud mouth that was running his mouth the whole game. And Todd told him one thing and shut him up for the rest of the game. He didn't say another word the rest of the time because Todd knew exactly what to say to him. So I would have loved to see him come back because that would be, again, another character that is just, kind of the, another big character who really didn't have a ton of game chops, but would just be a fun character to come back. All the gamers in that season have been back. They've all played again. And Courtney played it a second time, and she said, she I think on her Instagram or Facebook, whatever, for a long time, it said 2-time survivor, and it said more participant than player, which is funny because she certainly is. And I remember she came back, or she was told that she a lot of kids saw her and wanted to say hi to her and everything because she was a little tiny little scrawny girl, and she always would whine and say and she said the kids could relate to her because she was whining like they were. And she said, oh, so is that, you like that? You like kids coming up to you? She goes, no, I hate kids. Don't bring kids in near me. I don't want any kids near me. It was quite hilarious. And she dated Stephen Fishbach for a long time, which was kind of crazy. Because I don't see how they had anything in common. Next, we'll go to 16 was half returnee, half new player. And that one was again another one where the Eric Reichenbach was the biggest person to come out of that season. The guy gave up immunity, got bamboozled by the girls, gave immunity. So I really liked Joel, aka Truck, that season. He was obviously a tank. So I liked him a lot in that season. But the one he had to bring back again, for the LGBT part of it, and then also just for being a huge character, is Natalie Bolton. Natalie's always do well in these seasons. On the show, they had 2 Natalies who have won, and then this Natalie I think went out 4th or 5th. And she was, a rock star. I think she went 4th, and she was, very, very. She had one of the weirdest tribal council speeches of all time, asking Parvati how her flirtation translates to the bedroom, which is interesting. And she was very, just a very out there character. But she knew the game at least a little bit and was a fan. And it was something I wouldn't mind seeing coming back again, just to see how she would play differently. Again, so I'll put Natalie Bolton on there for season 16. Season 17. This was another one where it was just there was a lot of big characters and terrible gamers. The person who ran the game got the end with 0 votes because they're so unlikable. And the person who won was just, again, was likable. Didn't really do much in the game, but got the end and won. And then there was also Corinne and Randy season. Both of them came back again, played again. And then Corinne, obviously, in the Amazing Race. So there was, again, a lot of not the most likable people on Gabon. They actually named their merged tribe No Bag, which is Gabon backwards, because it was such a backward-ass season. So Kenny was fun. Crystal was crazy, with her steroid scandal. But Kenny would have been fun to bring back. And I really liked, some of the people who went out pre-merge that season. Maddie was fun, as well. And, Marcus Marcus and Charlie were interesting players. But I would say if you're going to bring somebody back from that season, man, that's tough. So there's nobody I really loved, on that season. It was another season I really ranked really low. I guess I would say bring back Kenny, just again for diversity, because he's Asian, and he's a smart guy too. He would be a fun one to bring back. For season 18, Tocantins, again they brought back I think 4 players from this season. They brought Coach Wade back twice, brought Tyson back 3 times, brought JT back 3 times, brought Steven back. Steven was on the original Second Chances. Again, 4 players that were really huge. Erin Lobdell. I think she's now Erin Moss. She married a hockey player, NHLer. So that's cool. But this one is, again, another one that easy to bring back. Taj George, Eddie George's wife. She also was in a female music group, which was really cool, a girl band. And she married NFL player, NFL running back, and Heisman Trophy winner Eddie George. He came out for the loved ones visit, and Taj was really fun. That was really cool, cool player on that season. So I would love to see her come back and play again. Another popular season was Survivor 19 at Samoa. You had Russell Hantz. That was Russell Hantz' dominated season. He got more confessionals than anybody in the history of the show by a lot. And obviously he was the runner-up in that season. Natalie, of course, was the winner. And then we've had Laura come back and Monica come back as well. This one, again, it was so heavily dominated by the one tribe. It's really even hard. And they also had Russell Swan come back. Actually, they went on 25. He came back. It's really hard to say who we'd like to see or who would come back from that season. It was just we didn't get to see enough of the tribe that dominated. They won all the challenges, early, and then they got picked off by Russell. In his group. It's hard to say who we'd like to see again. Obviously, John Fincher, formerly married to Parvati, now getting sued for domestic violence. So I really don't know if I really don't care to see him again. And then the other tribe, Foa, they didn't have any. But again, it was Russell who was dominating the airtime, and then Natalie wins. Russell came back twice. Natalie wins. There's really nobody else who really stood out. They brought back again Monica and Laura and the other Russell again. So it's like who do you want to see again from that season? Maybe Mick Trimming, because he was again the 0 vote finalist, and he was he was the quote unquote leader of the tribe, even though Russell was the one really leading it. So maybe Mick Trimming to bring back. Other than that, Jason was cool, but there was we didn't get to see enough of the other players to really see who we'd like to see again. So I guess I'll just go with Mick for that reason. If he had another chance, with all players who were in the same boat, maybe he would, fare pretty good. I think. I really don't know. So next we had 20, which is all returning players. So we'll skip that one. 21. This one's easy for me as well. Brenda was a good player in that season, so she comes back. She came back again. She was the only one who really knew what the hell she was doing. She played a second time, and then this was the season with Chase Rice, the musician. So he's not coming back. I'd put him on this list, but let's be honest, he's not coming back. So the only other real strategist on the season was Marty Piombo. So I would love to see Marty play again, and he's on this list. It was basically Brenda who was smart, Marty who was smart, and then a bunch of idiots. And Chase was decent at the game. He actually finished second. He lost, I think, by 1 vote. And honestly, I would have voted for Chase to win, just because the winner was just a dingus. So Chase winning but he actually doesn't need the money now, right? He's doing pretty well. So, so I would bring Marty back for that from that season from 21. Season 22, that was the Rob versus Russell season. We had a couple of those players come back again. Andrea came back again to play a second time, and then there's a few other players who obviously. Francesca came back again, as did Philip Shepard. So Natalie Tenorelli, Nat 10, was in the running for second chances. Didn't get the votes, so I guess might as well give it to her, or Ashley Underwood maybe, who was a little bit smarter player. But again, another season where it was kind of like Rob versus a bunch of idiots. So who do you bring back? Wyatt Nash, the actor. Was on that season too. He was, his real name is Matt. Jeez, I remember his name now, but his name was Matt. He is his real name, and he goes by actor. He's actor Wyatt Nash is his actor name, stage name. But he Matt Elrod. Thank you, Matt Elrod, and he's actor Wyatt Nash. But I wouldn't bring him back. I would say might as well bring back Nat 10 or Ashley. Natalie's big pitch to why she should come back on second chances after she didn't get the vote, so she didn't come back. But her big pitch was I was really young. I was 19 when I was going against Boston Rob in Survivor. Obviously, I had no chance. So now she's older. She could do it, and she would be. She would be the one I would say, maybe see now that she's, 10 years older, whatever, 8 or 10 years older, maybe see how she would do this time. So next, let's go on to season 23. This one, Michaela was in the running to come back for the second chances. Also, Jim Rice. I'd give it to Jim in this case. I'd bring Jim back. He also Whitney Duncan, country singer, was on this season as well. But again, I would give something to Jim. Fun character, and I think he would have had a decent chance to see what he would do. Or again, I Love Mickey. Michaela Wingle was in the running for this one as well. So either one of them again finally getting their second chance to come back. I would give it to one of these two, Jim Rice or Michaela. I would probably just go with Michaela in this case, or Jim in this case. The pot owner, the pot dispensary owner, with him and his hashtags. So I'd give it to Jim Rice. For season 24, now we are into again. Sabrina was in the running for second chances, didn't get it. I would go, and Troy Zan's been back, and Kat came back for Blood vs. Water, and then obviously Monica Culpepper came back with Brad in Blood vs. Water as well. And obviously Colton as well. I would give it to either Chelsea or Sabrina, the two other finalists. Chelsea was fine, but just got completely played by Kim. Same with Sabrina, got completely played by Kim. And again, it wasn't a great season because there was really one good player against a bunch of not great players. But I would bring back maybe Chelsea or Sabrina. Season 25, this one again, we had Malcolm come back, we had Denise come back, and then we had 3 returning players on that season. In this case, I would bring back either Lisa Welchel from Facts of Life, who was on that season, or Jeff Kent. But I know Jeff was asked to come back for second chances and didn't want to. So I don't think he'd be coming back to play again. But I do love Jeff Kent. He was a really solid player. And I'd love to see him come back and give it another shot. So I would put Jeff Kent in there. I know he wasn't want to, but I think it'd be fun to see him back. So I'm willing him back, even though he doesn't want to, because I don't care what he wants. He's coming back. Season 26. This was Fans vs. Favorites 2, and there weren't really a ton of fans, and the favorites were kind of so. So it was again not a very well received season. So I would say just give it to one of the only people who were, Sherry Beethman was a fan favorite. It was not a fan favorite. Was an actual fan, I should say, of the show. So maybe give it to her. She was runner up. She, whatever. Or Ronald Topher. He got, he started playing the game and he got into it as he got going. And it was a bit of a threat. He learned it from Malcolm, who's ended up being a really good player. So I would give it to either Sherry or Reynolds. 27 is a Blood vs. Water that again it was half returning, half new players. And that one, this one I would say I would just give it to Hayden Moss. He was a Big Brother player. He did really well, and there was obviously Vitas came back again, so he's already had his second chance. He was on the original second chance season, and then Sierra's played a few times. And the only other ones Brad's played again now as well. He was another one. So I would give this one to I would give this one to Hayden Moss. I'd love to see him play again. He's definitely smart. He did really well. I think he actually won Big Brother. So I'd love to see him come back and do it again. For 28, again, this one had a lot of great players, a lot of fun players. Sarah and Tony and Spencer and Tasha and Cass all have been back. This is one of the best seasons they've ever done. Again, LJ was cool. I liked a lot of those players. A lot of players in the merge. I need a lot of players before the merge. But this one, I just have to go with my heart over my head maybe, and give this one to Bryce Isaiah Johnston. Bryce just just such a character. He's still huge involved in the Survivor community, and he really wants a second chance. So I'd let him love to see what he can do with another chance. So I'd give that one to Bryce. Even though again you could really bring back anybody from that cast. There's really no real duds in that cast. Even the people who went out early were pretty huge. So I would go with Bryce. For 29, Blood vs. Water 2. John Mish was actually in the running again for second chances, but he just never got back to the producers. They called him, he never got back to them, so he didn't. They moved on, and he probably won't play again now for that reason. But again, that was Natalie, Nadia, and then Baylor and Missy. I would maybe see what Baylor could do without her mom there, because I think her mom really held her back that season. Keith has played again as well. Jeremy played again and then would go on to win. And then obviously you had the Broadway guys, Reed and Josh. But I would love to see what would happen with this one. Again, this one was tough. I went kicked this one out a little bit, and that tribe again. I had Kelly come back and play again as well. Wentworth, was on that season. So she's played a few times. Some really, really fun characters on that season. John Rocker was a lunatic. He won't come back. Wouldn't want him back. I would say. But Blood vs. Water, the original. Val would be cool to see again her play again. Without Jeremy. A lot of players that it would be kind of just cool to see what they would do without the person who they played with originally, and see what they could do on their own. Kelly was not really well known. They thought she was a threat, but she got knocked out really early, and it was kind of her dad's fault. So we don't really know. We really didn't know what she would do. And then she came back a second time and a third time and did really well both times. That would be see if there's any hidden gems in there. But I think it'd be cool to see John Mish play again. I think he had a decent mind for the game, even though he was, and maybe now that he's older, and not a frat boy like he was then. Maybe he would have been played better. Season 30, Carolyn was in the original. And I really think Carolyn, the reason I think she didn't win, she was in the running for second chances. I think the reason she didn't win is because people thought she was going to win the season. So they don't waste their vote on her, and then she wouldn't have been able to, because they did the running during her season, they did voting during her season, and she was kind of the front runner to win. So I think the reason she didn't get voted back in is because she was the front runner to win, and people didn't want to waste their vote. Tyler Fredrickson would be a fun one to bring back as well. Sharina obviously has played again, and Mike obviously winning the season. Rodney was a fun character, maybe bring him back, but I think Mama C, Carolyn Rivera, I think is the one you gotta give it to in this case. 31 was second chances, so obviously we're not going to say anything about that one. 32 was Aubrey's season, and Ty, they both have played again. And then you had Michelle. This one also you had Caleb, who came back and played again. So there were 3 people medically evacuated from that season. So I would love to see maybe one of them play again. But there's a lot of these. I think a lot of these characters were fun. Julia Sokolowski, that was the college student. She had a good mind for the game, but got knocked out. Kind of naive, young. Kyle Jason, the bounty hunter. Scott Pollard, the basketball player. They're villains, but again, it's good to have some villains on the show. It is good because they shake things up. And again, it was a very good show to watch again. The first time you watched it, you're like, okay, it's so. But seeing how it kind of played out and over the time, and going back and rewatching it, it definitely aged well. I would say it was a very good show to rewatch. Very good season to rewatch. Neil getting medically pulled from the game. is again another one who I'd really love to see him. He was in a decent spot before he got pulled from the game, so I kind of would love to see what he would do in a second chance type of season. And Dr. Obama, Peter Baggins, again another really smart player. He was in the running for Game Changers, didn't make the final cut. Liz Markham, again, really smart player. So I'm really on the fence about who I would give it to. I really think Neil Gottlieb should get another chance. Just again, the only reason he got knocked out of the game is because he got a knee infection, and he got pulled from the game because of a knee infection. He was in a decent spot. He maybe could have done something. And obviously, Debbie came back again. She was the biggest character in that season, just a complete Looney Tune. But she's already been back as well. So I would say give it to Neil. Just for the sake of they brought Kayla back. He got medically pulled. And then Sydney was great too, but I don't think she would want to do it again. So I'd give it to Neil in this case. Give him a fair shot without having getting pulled for medical reasons. Now up to 33. This is Adam's season. This is another season where a really great cast, a really great one of the best seasons. Definitely a top 3 season of the 30s. And obviously Adam's been back. But really nobody else. I really like Jessica Lewis, really like Ken. David's been back. That was David's season. Brett LaBelle didn't come back to play Survivor again, but he did play Amazing Race with Chris Hammonds, also from that season. So, again, a really awesome cast. This one is tough. I would probably just give it to Hannah because she was the runner-up. She was pretty naive. But she was a smart player, knows the game. Obviously, Zeke came back. He knew he was going to come back right away. Michaela came back. He knew she was going to come back right away. So of all those players who've already been back, the ones that are left, I would give it to, Ken, he just didn't, he had no mind for the game at all. He just wanted to do the challenges. And Hannah was smart, but just didn't have the social skills. So let's see if she could develop a social game, the nerd, see what she could do and come back for another chance. And then we're up to 34. And 34 was all returning players. So we've already had all them come back. And then after 34 comes, what comes next, Jessica?
35.
35. And what season was that, Jessica? That was Ben's season.
Yep.
So maybe Jessica can translate some of these seasons. Let's talk about 35, who we'd love to see come back. If you have anybody in your mind, I'll start, and then you can obviously throw in who you think you'd love to see come back. There's a couple I love to see. Chrissy, obviously, I love. I think she really should have won that season. If it wasn't for the twist. Ryan Ulrich was cool. Dr. Mike is entertaining, even though he's not great. I don't know how great he is of the game, but he's a fun character. Devin Pinto, a lot of people love Devin. I like him too. He just he learned the game as he went. He learned the game as he went along. And then I am a huge Lauren Rimmer fan. I would love to see Lauren Rimmer play again. She's one of those players who she was one of those people who you don't see a lot of Lauren Rimmers on Survivor. You see a lot of models on Survivor. You don't see a lot of bigger women who are kind of rednecks who come back and play a second time or who are on the show. So she's just one of those people who is out there, kind of kooky, but wasn't a bad player either. So I really like Lauren Rimmer. So who would I bring back? Man, so tough. What do you think before I say mine from that season? Who do you want?
Since Ben already came back, I'd probably go for Lauren.
Lauren Rimmer, yeah. I'm a huge Lauren Rimmer fan. I would probably give it to Chrissy, because she could have won too, and if it wasn't for the twist, she probably does win because she won 3 immunities on the stretch, and if it wasn't for the fire making twist, they vote out Ben, and she wins. So I would love to see her play again, and going on the criteria of having only played once and haven't won, I'd give it to her or Lauren. If I can have 2 from the season, it's those 2. And then Devin as well. It was Devin Pinto.
Yeah.
So
Captain Hook.
Yeah, right, exactly. The twirly mustache guy. Mm-hmm. This is not an advantage. That was cool. So, and I do like Joe Mena from that season too. He was definitely kind of a villain.
He's fine.
He was picking a fight with the Marine. Mm-hmm. But I would give it to probably Chrissy, and you give it to I co-sign both of those 100%. I probably couldn't choose between the 2. I love them both. Now let's go on to 36. This is a season Wendell one. I think this was an easy one. Who to bring back, for me. But what? Tell me your thoughts.
I mean, I'd go for Laurel, but I think you're gonna say Dominic.
For sure, and I don't think you can go wrong with either one. I think Laurel, just because people have been. I think Laurel. I think the reason you would go with Laurel is because she's got something to prove, right? Every season since her says, I don't want to be Laurel. I don't want to be Laurel. I don't want to be Laurel, right? And so she's going to be like, hey, I have to play really hard and prove that I know what I'm doing. She's a super fan of the game. She knows the game really well. She just couldn't make a move. She kind of got in a spot where she couldn't do anything. And people have been saying, so I think she would come back and just torch the island, come back guns blazing,
Yeah.
And play really, really hard. Would be a really fun season for her. That being said, I would still give it to Dominic just because the dude lost on a tiebreaker. He's the only player to ever lose on a tiebreaker at the final vote. And, he played a great game. I think he played a better game than Wendell, but Wendell was just had a little better social game. And that's the only reason.
They both wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for Laurel.
Agreed.
She had the opportunity to get rid of him, and she kept them both.
Agreed. So I don't think you can go wrong with either one of them. And again, a lot of times the second chance season, you bring in more than one player from that season. But that season, Wendell has been back, and they haven't had any really returning player seasons other than that. So they haven't had a chance to bring anybody else back. And the one thing I fear too is the further away you get from a season, the less likely you are to bring somebody back, unless it's a nostalgia factor, right? You bring somebody back from season 2 because it's nostalgia, right? But other than that, the further away you get, the less likely you are to bring them back because they just get lost in the mix. So I would go with Dominic, but you can't go wrong with Laurel either, for sure. There also were some fun players pre-merge that season too, like James Lim and some of the other ones. Gonzalez, or not Gonzalez. Stephanie Johnson. There's some fun players. Donathan was fun that season. Jacob Derwin was a goofball.
Yeah.
But I'd say again, Dom or Laurel for sure, no doubt. Let's go to season 37. Now this is again Nick's season. This was a great season again. It was definitely top 3 of the 30s. There's so many characters, right? So many characters I love on this season. I'd love to see John Hennigan play Survivor again. Not gonna happen, but I'd love it. He's back in WWE now, so he's definitely not gonna do that. Obviously, there's a couple other, Mike White, fantastic, can't go wrong with him. Gabby was fun. Gabby Pascuzzi was fun. I'm a big fan of Dr. Allison, as well. But there's one that, come on, who?
Christian
Dubicki, and he will play again. He's going to. It just a matter of when the next returning player season is going to be. He's number 1 with a bullet, and it's not close. Christian is the star of that season.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
So, I'll tell you who won't be back is Alec because he got sued by Survivor. And Kara won't be back. I think she got sued also.
Pat, who had to get evac.
Yeah, Pat's ill back. Yeah. Him too. For sure because he. That would be one if you did like that would be a fun if they did like the Survivor 25, which was Denise's season. If they did that thing again where they brought back like captains who were injured, you bring back Neil, you bring back what's his face? Neil, and then one Pat, and then maybe Joe Del Campo. Maybe he's like really old though, so I don't know if you bring him back. But bring back people who've been pulled from the game for medical reasons. That would be interesting to have those players come back. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about then season 38. This one's another easy one. They had 4 returning players on that season. Chris won the game somehow inexplicably. Gavin was fun. I like Julie. Julia was your winner pick. Eric was my winner pick, and Eric, and Julia were both beloved by their cast. But one person stole the show.
Rick Devens.
Rick Devens, obviously.
Or War Dog.
War Dog too, but no Rick Devens. And Reem was a character, but Rick Devens for sure. He'll be back too. I would be, depending on how long the show goes on, how many more returning player seasons they have. But Devins will be back on the scene on the season sooner rather than later. For sure. Easy. Season 39. Now this again is Tommy's season. And this is a season that was really dominated by women, and then a guy won it, which was, kind of unfortunate. Not a great season. Not one I really enjoyed. But a lot of good women on the season. A lot of good players on the season. Janet for sure. I love her.
Karishma.
Yep. Who do you think? I mean, you can walk me through your couple options, but what do you think?
Elaine.
Elaine was great. Yeah.
There's only one option for me. Lauren
Lauren Beck.
Yeah.
For sure. I would probably pick her as well. But I would since you're gonna pick Lauren, I'm gonna pick Janet.
Yeah.
But I also love Elaine.
Janet was the mom for everybody with everything that went on.
And that's such a hard role to play, right? That's such a hard role to play because, nobody wants to lose to their mom, right? Yeah. So no one wants to be betrayed by their mom.
Yeah.
So, but Janet for sure. I love Elaine. I like obviously Lauren for sure. Could come back, and then Chelsea got kind of swap screwed. She was a good player, but she's never got it. She was knocked out too early. But I would say my number one is Janet. And again, I know I've heard rumors that she's in the running to come back. Lauren should be. If she's not, she definitely should be. And how she got on the show, by the way? She's the only person I think
Lauren,
this way.
Isn't she a babysitter for someone?
She was a nanny for Pat Schmier.
Okay. Yeah.
Of Jeff's favorite band.
Oh.
Which is oh my God.
Red Hot Chili Peppers?
No. Oh my gosh.
What's his name?
Pat Smear. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Music, lead guitarist.
Oh my God. I'm so stupid. I can't think. Foo Fighters.
Oh, Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was
and
Jeff just friends with him, so that's how she got through. Because it was his nanny. It was Lauren. So again, another really can't go wrong either way there. Again, Elaine can't go wrong with her either. So 40 was all winners, all returning players, and then we got 2 left. 41. 41 is again another one that there were some really big characters. The winner again was a little bit underwhelming, and I thought there's other players who should have maybe won. There's one in particular who's in my head right now. But there's several players I think who are really quite good. Do you want me to go, or do you have it?
I think I know who you're thinking, which I probably have 2, I guess.
What's that?
Shan
For sure. That's it.
or Evie.
Yeah, Evie was good too.
She was
a really good player. Hard to she was such a threat. That's why.
Yeah. I like when Deshaun.
Deshaun is what I liked. Yeah.
Nasser is fine too.
Yes.
Nasir, but
yeah.
I don't know. Deshaun got a bad rap towards the end with everything, so I'd see him come back.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would say Shan for me. I think that was an easy one for me. But again, the other ones you said, I wouldn't disagree with either. I said I want more returning player seasons. They kind of talk about maybe doing every other season being a returning player, and give me more of that. Give me more players who've played before. They've learned from their mistakes. We already know them. They've they're characters that we don't have to worry about developing characters, right? Because we already have them. And we can kind of just roll with it, and we can, again, evolve the characters, but we don't have to spend time developing new characters. And give me more returning player seasons. Oh, and by the way, 37. I missed the one who I was going to go with.
Who's that?
What do you remember what I said for 37?
No.
Okay. Because 37, I was talking about Mike White. It was great. I was talking about John Hennigan, Christian. For 37?
Oh, 37. Christian.
Yeah, obviously that's the one.
Yeah.
But there's also somebody else from that season who's in the running to come back, and I'm sure will come back.
Who's that?
Angelina. I know. And I can't believe I forgot that, because she's... Obviously, you're going with Christian. I would probably go with Christian also, but Angelina is number 2. Christian was the star that season, but Angelina was also a star in a villain way.
Yeah, not in a good way.
No, not in a good way. But, again, entertaining as hell. So that's why Angelina is gotta be in the running for that one. But Christian would be the one that would bring back. But I can't say, I can't say I loved Angelina, but she was certainly entertaining. So I gotta mention that before I completely forget, because I would be surprised if she doesn't ever play again. I'd be surprised if she doesn't play again.
Man, that'd be a celebration I would have, but that's just me.
And finally, 42. It's the most recent season. Obviously, 43 is coming up soon, but 42 is the most recent season that we've seen. Do you have any thoughts, or what are you thinking?
I mean, there's multiple people I'd like to see come back.
Absolutely.
Lindsay. Omer. I know that's your pick, Omer.
Omer and Lindsay are too.
Jonathan,
yeah.
I would see him come back. Mike was fine too. No. Tori, you want Tori back?
Nope.
Okay. That's probably my people.
Omer and Lindsay for sure are mine too.
Yeah.
I mean, you pick one off the other, but High was good too.
I
liked him a lot too.
I like Jonathan, but
Jonathan was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably it for sure. So, that's, I would say, I would definitely say whichever one you say, I'd say the other, Lindsay or Omer. So.
Yeah.
For sure. Very good. Very good. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So that's all I have as well.
Dre was fun.
Dre was fun too. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's what we have. So go through and make a list and pull all these people back on our show at some point. But that's every season. One player from each season we'd love to see play again. All right. So that's it. That's what we got. The next season of Amazing Race will be coming up very soon. So you'll be hearing more from us soon on that. The next season of Survivor will be coming up soon. You'll be hearing more from me and maybe Jessica on that. So a lot more fun to be had. Survivor, please bring back more returning players, because I love that. But our next show will probably be the Amazing Race preview, cast preview. That won't take too long, only 11 teams. And there's some interesting things they're doing this season, which we'll talk about on that show. And then, of course, the Survivor show as well. So be sure to subscribe so you get all that stuff. Any of the stuff that you love, subscribe so you get it. If you don't like it, you can just delete it. But subscribe so you get everything, and then you can pick and choose so you don't miss anything. You can like our Facebook page, facebook.com, Papermo Productions. Email the show directly, papermoproductions@gmail.com. Share the post, tell your friends. I'm reaching out. I'm trying to get some more guests on the Survivor show, other Survivor fans and whatnot. So we'll see how that goes as well. But thanks, Jessica, for being part of the show. Thanks for giving us your opinion on the most recent seasons that you've seen, and it's been fun.
Yeah.
Excellent. Anything else?
No, I don't think so. It's coming soon.
Coming soon. More to come very soon. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of that stuff. And thanks for listening. And until next time, nothing else for you, because the tribe has spoken.